Hello, everyone. Welcome to Field Stories. My name is Nick Smith, and I'm here joined by Chris. How are you doing, Chris? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm good. This is actually the second to last day here at this research site we've been at here in the Andes, and I'm looking at myself in the screen, and I've literally got like the Nazca lines under my eyes here.
I realised I've lost all the light in the world. I'm actually going to turn my light on.
Yeah. I was just telling you, we chatted a little bit before we started, but just for the viewers, it was this is just like a mini field story. I'll make it quick within field stories. So last night we went up to do bats, which is a 400-meter hike up a mountain to get there. So we left at 3:30 to start. We set up our nets. We started doing the bats, and it was crazy. Like, it was so busy. We had the nets in a spot where the bats like kind of go up and over a ridge, so they go fly up and then they cross through the forest to go over. So we put our net there, and they're just catching. So I don't know. We had, I think, between 35 and 40 bats, which for the listeners is a huge number. It's usually 10 to 20. So very busy. And while we're up there, we have another assistant coordinator who's collecting moths for a project. So she had her light trap near the table where we're processing bats. So, it's a great system. No problem. She was helping with the bats. She was getting moths. Everything's great. But the thing is, we're in the Andes, and the weather changes fast. And at 9 o'clock, we go for our last check, and it starts to rain. Drop, 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 rain. Okay, so it's pouring, and we're like, what do? We got like nearly 40 bats we have to work with. We have all our equipment. She's got a light trap, so we're just freaking out, scrambling. So we put a poncho with lines over the table, and we're like huddled around this table and like holding the bats under the poncho. But the poor Talia with her moth trap has to like turn it off because it's going to destroy it. Well, here's the thing. When you have people with white headlamps under a poncho and you have a light trap of 500 moths and you turn the light trap off and you shake it to get the moths off, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to come to the people under the tarp with all the bright light. So now we are processing nearly 40 bats in the pouring rain with hundreds of moths all over our face and our body.
So wild.
So we did that for like nearly 3 hours. And then at about 11 p.m., we haven't eaten dinner, of course, yet. It's cold now because it's raining. We're going down a mountain about this angle, pure mud, carrying poles and equipment. We get back to camp at around midnight. And so we eat dinner. We're like, well, we survived. Actually, it was amazing. Got new species. Epic. And then we get up for birds because that's the life we lead. 4:30 a.m. to get up for birds. Well, it turns out some of our bird nets had been knocked down, which was great. We had to put them up. We get them set up. Wait, first check. We got only 2 birds. That's okay. Who cares? We got some birds. But as soon as we get the birds, I swear, the minute we finish, the rain again. So we have to take all the nets down, pack them all up. They're all wet, miserable. Walk back, cold and wet. And I haven't actually napped since. I've had 3 hours of sleep. And now I'm talking to you, Nick. So that's my day. That's what I'm doing. That's a mini field story within our field stories.
Oh, that's epic. Well, I have actually got a little one myself, actually, as well. I've just finished editing my film, and I've been putting the sequence together, and it's the Great Crested Grebes doing their courtship dance when they come out of the water, the weed dance, right? Yep. But I just want to tell really quickly about how I got that footage. So it was the last piece of my film. So I've got got them doing most of the courtship dance, didn't get the weed dance. I then filmed them on the nest last year, and then I filmed them with the eggs, with the chicks on their back, all this cute stuff, all of this, and feeding, everything was perfect for my film. But I was missing this one thing, and I don't know what it was, but I went out and I got really, really drunk, and I was up until 7, 8 a.m. and it was sunrise at February, March time. It would have been end of February, and it was about sunrise, 7, 8 a.m. and I hadn't gone to sleep at all, and I was like, shit, I've got to get this footage in. And for some reason, I thought that was the time I had to go and get it. I was like, I have to go and get it. So I went out, I walked down to the lake with my camera gear, completely toasted, what am I doing? This is horrible. And I lied down on the edge of the lake for about 4 hours, napping, half aware, half napping. But oh my God, it was the most beautiful day ever. The sunrise was just coming out over, all the golden light was on them, and the birds, because I was just lying there half asleep. I wasn't moving or making any sound. They just kept coming closer and closer, and I was within 10 meters on the lake of these birds, and then they dive down with the weeds and come flying up, doing their penguin dance, all turning their head right in front of me as I'm there, like, shit, I need to film this. And I'm filming it, and it just completed my film. And it was just the most mesmerizing experience. And I remember filming myself. I'll have to send you the footage, Chris. It's quite funny. And I'm like, yeah, like, really, like, come on, like, to the camera, like, hyped, deliriously tired, still drunk. It was just,
you know, now that you've said this on the show, you're going to have to share that on the account so people can see it on Instagram.
The account, yeah, you're right.
You're going to have to. You have to now.
Rude not to. Rude not to.
Actually, I mean, it's kind of, you saw the story I posted. Some of the listeners might know I caught a Andean cock of the rock recently, which was amazing. And one of the volunteers videoed my reaction when I had just taken out of the net, like, I mean, seconds earlier. And I hadn't put it in the bag yet. I just was like, oh my God, it's in my hands. And yeah, I was the same. I was like, holy fuck, what is this? I can't, yeah, so it's great. So I should share that. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, so there you go. That's like a 6-minute bonus field story before we get to our guests. So yeah, it's awesome. So with that in mind, well, we should also say once again, I swear to God, we haven't kicked Michaela out. We haven't like exiled her to Massachusetts. She's just very busy. And actually, right now, she's working as we speak because it's currently, I guess, about 4 o'clock where she is in Massachusetts. And it's a Tuesday because, well, you'll hear later maybe about why we're in this position. But yeah, so basically we're filming on a Tuesday instead of a Sunday. So Michaela can't join us because she's got a real job. And no, I'm kidding. It's a 9-to-5 job. And yeah, so she will be joining us soon, I hope. We miss her. Where are you, Michaela? We miss you.
I haven't seen you for so long.
Yeah, I get one of you. I don't get both of you. I miss it. So. Yeah, so anyways, this week we have a great guest, a really awesome guy that I was fortunate enough to work with for about only a month, sadly. I wish I could have worked with him for like a year. Back in February and March in Tampapate in the jungle here in Peru. And yeah, it was he was really awesome. Really loved him. Great stories. And I thought he'd be a great guest in our show, and he's, well, you'll hear soon enough when we start talking to him. Yeah, I think he's going to be a great guest, and super excited to have Philip join us. All right, so our guest this week is Philipp Kraemer, and he is an ornithologist, biologist, who is actually going to be starting his PhD, well, I guess later this year, very soon, actually. And I was fortunate enough to get to know Philip back in February and March when he joined us here in Peru. As a volunteer and intern at Fauna Forever. And yeah, I was really impressed with Philip's, well, and overall as a person, but also his knowledge and some of the crazy stories he was able to share with me during our time together. So I thought it was a really good idea to bring him onto the show and let him share some of these, some of his insight and knowledge and stories with us. So thanks for joining us, Philip. It's really awesome to speak to you. And yeah, go ahead and just give us a little background about yourself and what you're going to be doing. And as I kind of alluded to, a little bit about your PhD, maybe that would be awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you again. I meant Peru, but okay. Yeah.
Oh wow, our secrets out.
Yeah.
No, I mean, thanks for having me. It's really cool to talk a little bit about seabirds, maybe my PhD. Yeah, and about myself, I guess. So I'm from Germany, from southern Germany, from the little town Augsburg, which is in Bavaria. So I went there to school, and then I went to Munich to study biology, as you said. My first experience with fieldwork was actually in Peru as well. I did my bachelor thesis in central Peru with around 2 months of fieldwork with 2 study colleagues and me. And I spent there, doing bird surveys, investigating how land use gradients influence the bird community there, which was pretty cool because we basically they showed us like, okay, wear rubber boots, don't step on snakes. Here you go, have fun. Um, maybe also a little bit reckless, but I don't know. It was pretty cool. The other guy was a herpetologist, and the girl was an entomologist. So we had a blast. It was really cool. So that was my first field work experience. So I concluded my bachelor in Munich, and then I studied also biology, ecology in Gießen. It's a small town in central Germany, and I went there because in the meantime I did a small internship at the North Sea island of Heligoland in Germany, which is like the only high seas island which we have. And they do a lot of bird banding there. I got experience with that. And I did whole day counts of common Murrays, which are like penguin-like seabirds in the northern hemisphere, and that was really really cool. Sitting there all day at the cliff, counting seabirds, yeah, was great.
Nice.
So then I noticed like, okay, I want to do something with seabirds. I mean, the jungle was absolutely amazing, and I still love it to this day. That's why I joined Fauna Forever this year. But I noticed like for my academic research purpose, yeah, seabirds would be more fitting. And so I went to Gießen because there's a Professor Quillfeld, and she investigates seabirds all over the world. Yeah, for the most part, it's tube noses. Um, and so I asked her if I could join, and she said, "Yeah, you have some projects you could attend to." And one of them was Antarctica. I was like, "Holy hell! I could go to Antarctica
Nice.
for my master thesis. What the hell? How amazing is that?" And then I had to write a proposal, and yeah, basically it worked. And in the January of 2020, I got to go to Antarctica. We did 7 weeks of fieldwork there, and I came back and on the first days of the Corona pandemic, so that was quite a hard stop. And
Oof.
afterwards, yeah, I always wanted to stay in academia or at least to do a PhD, but Corona made it like with fieldwork almost impossible to start anything new. And so I did, yeah, I worked as a consultant in the meantime, and the last 2.5 years for the federal state in Bavaria, yeah, in the environmental agency, sort of, and like some months ago, just before I went to join Fauna Forever, I got news that I got my proposal for a scholarship got approved, and I can finally start my PhD, which will be about storm petrels, little seabirds in the Atacama Desert in northern Peru, northern Chile. Sorry. Um, and yeah, we will focus on foraging ecology and spatial use. So basically, that's me.
Yeah,
Great.
that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, I guess probably Nick and myself both have a few questions. I guess the first one that I'll kind of fire out there is, maybe for our listeners and viewers, maybe you can just go into a little more details about, when you say, seabirds, what that means exactly, because obviously it's not just one group of birds; it's a complicated sort of group, and maybe you could just break it down a little bit so people understand a bit more about what group of birds you're talking about.
hmm So yeah, seabirds. Yeah, that's a pretty diverse group of animals. When we are at the coast, we can watch shorebirds like waders, for example. And then we have gulls, which most of us would clearly identify as a seabird. But gulls are like the innermost species group, most close to the coast. And there are other groups less known, which also breed on land, obviously, or on small islands. but they travel much farther out. So I'm talking about, for example, about boobies, gannets, and my study focus my group, it's tube noses. It's the order Procellariiformes, which have like charismatic individuals like albatrosses and petrels. And the smallest member of this small group is storm petrels, which are like almost like most of them the size around like small, very small gull or a blackbird, something in between. And yeah, they are nocturnal. They breed in very remote places. Some of them, or most of them, are not very well known compared to all other seabirds. And yeah, that's my group.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's great. I was just going to ask you, Philip, on basically if you could just give us a little understanding of some of the adaptations that a seabird will have. For example, I've done a project recently on the northern fulmar, and I made a little portfolio and presentation for my degree. And I was just really curious to hear from an expert on maybe some you might not know specifically with the fulmar, but other seabirds. Some of the things that allow them to be able to be on the wing all the time, or to survive the harsh climates around the coastline and out at sea specifically. You feel free to use a specific example or a more general, but I'm really curious to some of the adaptations, that they would have.
Yeah, that's a great question. There are like a lot of adaptations which make them very special. For me, one of the most which make them very interesting for me is like also it's kind of emotional or like kind of poetic, is that they are really ocean wanderers. They travel the oceans like almost no other group of animals do, and they still breed on land. So they have a very, very efficient flight. It also a little bit depends on the group, but for example, albatrosses, they can cover most of the globe, and it's energetically possible for them to just fly and to use the currents, the air currents, the waves, with their specially shaped wings, which are very narrow, very pointy, and which allows them to be basically surf the wind without energy loss, or with almost no energy loss. And they are long living. They, for tube noses, is that they only lay one egg. Usually albatrosses sometimes only one egg per 2 years. Long
Oh wow!
living, they have a like, yeah, they only lay one egg, have not that much offspring. They have to deal with different chemical properties of the sea and their food, which lives in the sea. So they have to excrete salt in a more efficient way.
Mm.
Which, because tube noses are called tube noses because they have special glands that are like based upon their nostrils, and these glands excrete salt very efficiently, which is important for these animals. And they have a very, very, very good sense of smell. So
Oh,
probably
fascinating.
along with vultures, the best sense of smell in birds.
Oh wow! Yeah,
So yeah,
amazing.
they can smell like some molecules kilometers away. Sometimes some say even hundreds of kilometers away, when there's a
Wow.
feeding frenzy and there's a lot of a special molecule called DMS is excreted, and it's thought that they use it as a cue to.
So are they using
Wow.
smell more than sight then in certain cases for hunting? Or
Yeah, you could say so. At least at a longer range. At a short range, I think they also use sight. Depends, because a lot of them are also feeding at night. So I guess
Mhm.
it's also tactile. And then if they are at a spot where there's a lot of food, they don't have to like choose or like hunt really
Sure,
much.
sure.
that also depends on the group, because there's the shearwaters, which are diving. They hunt their prey diving, and or some 10, 20, 30 meters deep. They swim after their prey, which is fish or squid, and I think they will locate their prey by sight. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Amazing. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize how poor most birds' sense of smell is, actually. So, having a good sense of smell is a really unique adaptation in the bird world. Unlike a lot of other vertebrates, it's actually very unique in birds. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I wanted to just continue on this vein a little bit because we don't get a lot of pelagic bird experts on the show, as you can imagine. I wondered if you could speak. You mentioned that they spend most of their adult life and most of their days are spent wandering, looking for food in the sea. And of course, the sea has its own set of conservation challenges: pollution, plastic, etc., climate change. All of those are major issues in the sea. But as you also mentioned, all these species are reliant upon some form of land for reproduction, and that also poses a significant conservation threat to them. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very important point. Some of the seabirds are among the most highly endangered bird species there are, because some species like for example, the Amsterdam albatross only occurs at a small islet in the South Indian Ocean, I think, or is it South Pacific? Doesn't matter. But yeah, so they are confined to a very narrow place in space, and if these ecosystems, especially islands, they have no natural predators there. So if a predator from outside gets transported there, like, they have no defense mechanism, which is one of the most, yeah, it's the biggest problem for a lot of these species. So there are huge projects, for example, like on Marion Island, where they try to get rid of invasive predators like mice, like rats, like cats, and it's very difficult. So this is a big thing for them. Introduce predators for which they have no defense mechanism. So that's what produces these harrowing images of albatrosses getting eaten alive by rats. They just won't defend themselves. That's,
Wow.
for me, I think the worst problem they have. Also, this habitat destruction at some places, but at others it's not so much a problem, because they breed on steep little rock islets, and so there will be no habitat use. For some, it's also guano, like, yeah, when they take, like, when people take guano from the islands, they destroy some of the habitats, but that's also not that big of a problem. Light pollution, which will my PhD project will focus on this. There are places, yeah, where light pollution is a really huge problem, because seabirds are in that way a little bit like moths, so they get attracted to the light, and then some will, like, yeah, fly in man-made structures, or they exhaust there. They are exhausted sitting beneath, like, these huge lights. For example, at mines, they have this huge artificial light sources, and yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Oh well, yeah. There's obviously loads of issues that can be talked about there. Hopefully that we can obviously work towards rectifying some of these. Is that what you? It's kind of links into my question really. So is that the kind of route that you want to go down? Is it more? I guess I'll answer. I'll open question. Are you looking to go into the conservation world or more the like research and science world, or are you trying to combine, or sort of what does your future look like after your PhD or including your PhD essentially? That's the question.
So I at the moment I try to think only in the until the PhD is done. Like, that is a black wall, and everything beyond is like, yeah. I don't know it,
Yeah, it's
but
always a fun
still, like
question to ask.
from my no, it's great. Now in my PhD I will focus more on the research side, but I hope to apply it to conservation, especially regarding light pollution, because light pollution is a huge
Mm,
problem in the Atacama Desert, where my study species breed, and it will get only worse. So
of course.
due to all the renewable energy projects, which are great, but still it can be a problem for these birds. And so that's one thing. But my interest is in how these birds search for prey, and what prey do they use. And one of the things I really like most, or I find most attracting, is not birds. Birds, I mean, birds are cool because they are birds, obviously, but also to use birds as kind of indicators, like as bio. It's often said birds are useful bioindicators, but it's not
Mhm.
that often spelled out what that means. What can they actually tell you? So I hope that my absolute dream in the future would be I can use like a storm petrel or a seabird as a small researcher, as a small marine biologist, which will collect data of like occurrence of their food items, and I can pinpoint where they preyed upon said food items. So that would be great to like birds in the context of a huge environment. And if this could be helpful for conservation purposes, I would be more than happy.
Oh,
It's
that
amazing.
sounds that sounds awesome, man. Um, yeah, well, that's really cool. Thank you for giving this little TED talk on seabirds. It was great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we really enjoyed it.
I
yeah,
try
Really
my
enjoyed
best.
it.
that's awesome. Yeah, no, I think time to transition to the story part of the show. And we kind of have avoided talking about your time in Antarctica, but obviously that's
Yeah,
something we're both kind of jealous of, as you can imagine. So, so yeah,
absolutely.
I'm not sure 100%, but I suspect your story might involve a little bit of your time in Antarctica. It seems like
Yeah.
a rich ground for stories. So, yeah, go ahead, hit us with your story, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I mean, it was one of the greatest experiences in my life, and most meaningful. And
Good stuff.
I think I want to start like to explain how I arrived in Antarctica, because that's pretty interesting, and about how the fieldwork looked there, like a little bit of it. Yeah. So as I said, I found this professor, which would send me to Antarctica, like just some. For me, I was like, okay, I'm a random dude from Bavaria going to Antarctica. This is not right. This doesn't feel like imposter syndrome kicked heavy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I
Very good.
had this proposal, and for my master thesis, the plan was okay. We will equip Wilson's storm petrel, which is one of the smallest and one of the most numerous seabirds in the world, with GPS tags. That was the plan. That was the plan. And kind of a spoiler, but it worked. Um, yeah. So um, I I accompanied a PhD student, um, and she did research also on Wilson storm petrel and black-bellied storm petrel, another species there, and it focused on mercury intoxication and contamination, and a little bit on plastic contamination. So I accompanied her, and we went together first to Buenos Aires, to Argentina, because we would stay on an Argentinian research base. And we learned upon arrival, yeah, you are missing some permits, and I
Oh,
guess you all can understand this.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, which was it worked out, but
oh,
it was really stressful. I ran through Buenos Aires at one point because I was at a cemetery, and just walking around, throwing around. Then she called me like, "You have to get back. We have to get the permits. Oh my god!" And the thing is, one thing about going to Antarctica, the most important thing about that is the weather. So in that sense, we had luck because we had no permit, and but the weather was bad, so we had time. We had to spend 9 days in Buenos Aires because sometimes if there are storms, you cannot get there. It's just not possible. Yeah. So but finally we had the permits, and then the weather was better. We would start to go down there. We would take a military plane to Rio Gallegos in Patagonia, and that was also first time like in the military plane, pretty exciting. Then we had to spend 2 nights there, and then we boarded finally the Hercules, the military plane, to Antarctica. One thing I must say, like the whole logistics from the Argentinians is operated by the military, by all 3 different branches, which is sometimes very complicated because the aviation transport is coordinated by the Air Force, obviously. Then we had to board a ship, which was operated by the Navy, and then the base was operated by the land forces, and they don't talk to each other. So yeah, well, it was pretty great.
Of course.
And the thing was like, I was also pretty excited because just 4 weeks before we went down with the plane, Hercules crashed down into the sea. Operated by the Chileans. All of the passengers died, which was pretty
nice.
harrowing. And I was
my
like,
God.
oh my god, okay, yeah. I mean, okay, what are the chances that it happened twice on the same route?
Yeah.
But when I sat in the plane, and like there was a lot of like turbulences, as you can imagine, then suddenly a screw landed in my lap, and it was like, holy moly, this is it. And then I learned, like I noticed, okay, it's just a screw from just some metal covering. It's not important. Inside, it was inside the plane. But I was like, okay, that's I'm awake now. And yeah, basically the flight was pretty boring until we almost reached Antarctica because we were in the clouds the whole time. And why I tell this is when we went beneath the clouds, it was like first I saw my first iceberg. It was just a otherworldly feeling, and then um, we saw the coast the first time, and I had to turn around because I said with my back to the window, and was like, this is not real. It's like it's the wildest coast you can imagine. It's steep, rough, and the waves were crushing against it. It's just a supreme feeling of the nature there. It's a primeval feeling of the natural forces there. It's really amazing. And I thought in that moment, this is the first time I feel like I'm a guest at a site. It's like,
Wow.
I mean, there are a lot of wild, untouched places on Earth, but by concept, they belong to a country. Like, so, and this belongs to no one, and I'm a guest here. So that was the feeling. But then we touched down. We went to the ship. The Germans, they were too orderly. They forgot. They already brought our life suits to the station. Thanks for that. We were like completely wet and soaked when we had to go into a Zodiac to go to the huge naval ship, and then it was not that fun. But the fun thing was there was a German with me, and he was so Germaning around at that moment because he was like, we were like completely soaked. It was freakingly cold, and the sea was rough, and we were like clinging to the ropes of this Zodiac boat, this thing, and he was like, "Oh, I will write a complaint about this. I will so complain about this. Oh my god!" And it was like, "Dude, we have bigger problems right now." But it was fun. After that, it worked out. We arrived at the station. We got like a safety instruction. and yeah, you have to look for a lot of things there. There's a lot of restrictions, also environmental restrictions. And then we had like one of our first nights, I think was the second night on the station. We were welcomed very, very friendly by the Argentinians. The whole personnel greeted us at the shore. It was pretty cool. And then we went up to our field site, which is a dormant volcano. It's called the Tres Hermanos, the Three Brothers Hill. Pretty cool site. It's like this is the station is located. I have to say this at the Antarctic Peninsula, on King George Island, which is like belongs to the Southern Shetland Islands. And that's right at the tip of the peninsula. So it was a maritime climate. It was not too cold, but also not too warm. So yeah, that was good. And the colony of Wilson storm petrels is located at this dormant volcano, which is some sort the guardian, or this huge mountain, or this mountain of this cove. This where the station was located. So we had to walk there or hike there for like 30 minutes, then hike up the volcano, which is gravel. And during the night, which was also pretty exciting, we set up our nets, our mist nets, and in the first night we caught immediately 10 storm petrels, which was like it was amazing. It was like the PhD students, he said he had never like a night like this. It was just amazing. And then we got a radio. We had radio chatter of radio, and then we heard the chief of the base, which was a military guy. He said like, "Come down immediately. You need to come down immediately." And we were like, "No, why? It's like you're not allowed to be up there." And we communicated this, but they thought we were like climbing around, and like they thought we were absolutely reckless, and we tried to explain them, no, we are not. And then we said, okay, can we at least process the birds, and then we will come down. It's like, no, you come down immediately. And then we noticed, okay, this is the military, you cannot just say no. So we had to go down there, and it was like we had never a night like this again. It was the best night of the whole campaign, and we just had to release the birds. And
oh no,
small
crushed.
loss. Yeah,
That's
but afterwards
so sad.
we went up again and again. Like we could assure the chief of the base, because he sent his vice chief of the base with us, and he said, okay, yeah, you can go there by your own. I can see you can climb this mountain. One of the other years, they wouldn't allow two women to do this, because they were two women, and they were like, what the hell? And then another researcher from Argentina, she said, okay, I can go with them. And apparently the Argentinian military math is like 2 women equal 1 man, because then it was allowed. Like 3 women could go up there, which was so stupid, but okay. So we were allowed. We could do a research there, which involved mist netting up at this volcano, and was pretty nice. I mean, we put all our clothes on, because it's not like cold in an absolute sense, but if you sit there for 2 hours waiting, it's freaking cold. It's really cold. So we had to wait there, and then sat there, and it was pretty beautiful, because you sit there and you listen to the birds, and some of them, they do this like almost a bell sort of noise, and then you hear the glacier in the distance rumbling, and sometimes a huge part crashes into the sea, and it's just you see the full moon over the glacier, and this was really beautiful. So that was one part of the research, and another part was to check the nests, ideally every day, and except when there is a snowstorm, which happened. And then we had to like measure the chicks, weigh them, and in the end they all got a ring, and that was pretty cool. They are nice little fellas. I mean, I worked with some species of birds yet, and they are among the nicest. I mean, they puke and they poop, but that's
That's
actually
normal.
that's good. That's normal. That's good. We want
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's a sample, free sample.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nice little birds. And the third part of the project was actually my master thesis project. And for this, we had to go to the colony at night. We had to visit nests, and we caught adult birds and we attached GPS loggers to the tail feathers, which does not harm them. And then we had to go there every night again to retrieve the loggers because they would not send any information. We had to retrieve them. That was pretty exciting. It's like playing the lottery. And
Yeah.
like when we record the first tagged birds, then I got the tag. We went straight back. I attached it to the computer, to the interface, and then we saw the first tracks of this species which were ever like taken. And this was also one of the coolest
Amazing.
things ever. It was so rewarding. It was crazy that these small birds travel more than 200, 300 kilometers, sometimes even up to 1,000 kilometers for one trip to get food for their chicks. And
Crazy.
the foraging range is immense. It's, if you compare it to like a house sparrow, which his whole life maybe he spends like in a 50-meter radius or like 100-meter radius, and this bird just travels. It's crazy.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Corona hit, and so the first news of Corona were like, okay, something happening in Europe. The Argentinians, they were asking me because we saw like Germans storming into supermarkets to buy toilet paper in the Argentinian TV, and like the Argentinians were like, dude, is your family okay? What is happening there? And it was like, I don't know. What the hell? Yeah, and then we went back. The whole travel back is almost, it's another episode, I guess, because
Yeah.
a lot of it happened. But I came back like, yeah, we arrived in Punta Arenas in Chile back at the, I think, 12th or 13th of March, no, 15th of March, something like that. And the whole world was kind of ending. Like borders were closed. I could not return to Argentina. I already made plans, like who could I ask in Chile if I could like join this research station or this research station to live my life there, basically. Yeah, it was a strange time. Then
Was.
Yeah.
at the airport, I I saw like a penguin, and I was like chatting with this girl, and I asked like the PhD student, like I accompanied, like, should I buy her the penguin? And then she said, yeah, why not? I mean, and I did, and this is also the end of the story because I gave it to her on a first date and we just got engaged. So
There you go.
that worked out. That was
Wow.
basically like all of it, it felt like all of this whole crazy thing led to this, and
That's
that's
wonderful.
basically yeah, full circle.
That's
How good is
amazing.
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I feel like you said, I feel like there's a lot more stories to that time than you can even
Yeah.
share now. I know there's
Yeah.
one, I
That's it.
won't make it, but I know there's one you told me about that project that you can't repeat right now. So that's maybe
Yeah.
one day as well.
Yeah.
So
One one day. If I'm a professor, then I can.
so yeah, no, it sounds amazing, and it sounds like, I like how you described like the first time you see it, and then Antarctica. And I can just imagine like a full moon over the glaciers. It must just be otherworldly, like being on another planet. Just
Yeah.
amazing. So
It was
super
really
cool, man.
poetic. Yeah, really poetic. I liked the storytelling was awesome. I felt like I was on that plane through coming
Yeah.
back here and looking out over this first iceberg and it being so wild and the cliffs. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was there freezing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
it was.
it's cool because, I mean, to be honest, a lot of us, probably aren't going to get a chance to go. I mean, I would love to go one day. Who knows? But yeah, it's hard. So it's really cool to understand like what it's like to get there and what it's like when you first see it. And yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that with us. That's really awesome. Super, super cool.
Yeah, thanks for letting me tell the story.
You're welcome.
I
Yeah.
just I love this place. It was, as I said, the travel of a lifetime, and yeah, I hope that more people get interested in this, in the seventh continent.
Hmm.
I know it belongs to no one, and it should remain like this, and that's, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
it's amazing.
Oh,
There's many places left on the earth like that, so it's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Cool.
thank you very much, Philip. That was amazing. We really enjoyed that one. That was so good.
Yeah,
I-
that's great, man. Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Thanks, Philip.
All right, well, that was awesome. It's great having Philip on, and you know what? We've always been pretty transparent. He let the cat out of the bag. That's actually the second time we've done an interview with him,
I don't know if
because the
it's
first time,
but I didn't
yeah,
remember the story the first time he said it, so I'm glad he repeated.
here's the thing. So just so everybody knows, like about, I don't know, what was it? It seems like a year ago, but I guess it was like a month
Oh, it was
ago.
probably
Maybe
4 weeks ago. Yeah, 5 weeks ago.
we did it. We did a whole episode. It was great. And as always, we had technical problems, and it just, my whole part of it just disappeared. So Philip was answering questions from a blank screen. So we just decided, well, we got to cancel that. So we said to Philip, well, we'll have you on again because it was a great episode. And actually, this week we had another guest who unfortunately had to cancel. We'll have him on soon. It happens. And Philip was really gracious to join us like at 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, like amazing. So really big thanks to him. But that's what he meant. Well, it's when we laughed about
Yeah,
hearing it
yeah.
again. But yeah, you said, Nick, probably just because we talk to so many people, and also because we're both just so tired and have so much on our minds. I'd forgotten some of the details. So actually, yeah, having it again, and I think he might have told it better the second time anyway. So it's actually really good.
It was an amazing story.
So,
I love that story.
yeah.
I was genuinely picturing every single detail of that story. It was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah,
And what
it's
we'll
been
say
great.
is we're now doing a Field Stories trip to Antarctica. So anyone wanting to join that, we'll be setting it
Yeah.
up very soon, and also taking money donations for that.
Yeah. It's each person has to come is like $500,000. But yeah, that's great. I mean, if
Yeah, exactly.
you guys pay 500 grand each, and then Nick and me can go, and
Yeah.
maybe if we get enough people, Ella can come as well. So there you go.
Can't wait.
Man.
Oh,
We're
dear.
gonna Fauna Forever Antarctica soon. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there we go. It's got to be done, I think.
yeah. No, that was great. I really enjoyed it, and really enjoyed him talking about seabirds and in general as well, because I agree with him. They are a really underappreciated group of birds, amazing life histories. They're probably the least accessible group of birds for the average person to see. So it's no wonder that a lot of people don't know about them. But like he said, like all birds, they have amazing adaptations that are often, not appreciated by sort of the average person who doesn't know them. So that was really cool as well. I really appreciated that part of the episode.
It's
So
extremely topical too, right? Because they're what did he say? And you might be able to confirm this, that they are the most threatened group of birds.
yeah, certainly they are one of them. Yeah, depending on what metric you use, they really are. And I mean, as he said, it's because without a doubt they're the most, I guess you'd say, range restricted breeding birds. Like, there's no other group of birds that are so restricted on where they breed overall. Because a lot of birds may have a small range as a species, but then they breed basically anywhere within it. Whereas this group is completely different. They have a huge range. If you look on the world maps, you see this color all over the ocean, which gives you the impression that they're fine. But then if you look at the breeding map, it's a tiny pinpoint in the whole world species. So a very unique reproductive strategy they undertake. And yeah, as he said, I mean, it works fine when there's no predators, but the minute you introduce anything, even a mouse, as he said, it's pretty catastrophic. So yeah, really interesting, really great information he shared. I loved it. And I just love Philip. He's amazing. And he's one of those people, he's one of those people that, he knows so much, but he also is so humble and so just genuinely passionate about nature and everything he talks about. So really glad to have him on. And, as you said, I hope I can join him in helping him with his field work in the future. We'll see how my schedule goes, but that would be awesome to join him in Chile. So fingers crossed it works.
Do an infield podcast then. That'd be great because there's more.
Absolutely.
Sure, more to come from Phillip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Chris,
we'll wrap.
So I think we'll wrap it up, shall we?
Yeah, it was a great episode, and I guess we'll see where the winds to follow on the footsteps of the birds at sea. We'll see where the winds take us next week for our next episode.
Well, I'll be done with uni, so hopefully it'll be going well.
We'll see. You never know.
You never know. Right. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and then we will see you next week.
Ciao.